Whether you are new to the game of golf or have been playing for over 20 years like myself, one thing is inevitably true. You will always hit shots like this. And this. And this. Which will obviously make you feel like this. So my hope with sharing this video with you today is that you can be reminded that to put together a good score in golf, you don't need to hit incredible shots. A lot of what you're going to see in this round are pretty average approach shots, decent putts, and hit a few fairways here and there. So on this opening hole, it's a pretty straightforward par 4, a very wide fairway that you can just hit a pretty safe driver out into the middle of. I have an approach onto the green, which you can see I am well short. One of the things you want to do in order to reduce your score is certainly put the ball a lot closer when you are under 150 yards in, but golf's tricky, so that lag putt is left a little bit too short. I'm not able to clean up that par putt, so it is an opening bogey, but sometimes that's the thing you need to just wake you up and realize that you're not going to set a course record, so it lets you swing a little bit looser. And maybe I got a little bit too loose with this second driver swing of the day, because it helped me realize I'm getting old, and my back had a little bit of a pinch to it on that swing. I didn't feel really great stepping up to the approach shot on this par 5, and I absolutely topped that ball. Now it is unfortunate when you have a short par 5 and you are trying to get to the green in 2, but you hit a bad shot like this. So one thing that's important to remember is you can always reframe a shot in your mind. So what I did there is decided, hey, it was just an accidental layup and I still have a chance to approach the green. I didn't put a great shot on it to get to the green, and you can see that I left another really long first putt attempt, so it's an even lengthier attempt to save a par here, but that's 2 bogeys in a row, and I'm not getting super frustrated because it's a beautiful morning, and you have to remember, you are fortunate to play this game of golf. And I wish I could tell you that reframing my mind really worked out in my favor, but this is the worst hole I had of the entire day. As I top my drive, it's never good when a friend has to cheer on the cart path for you, and I top my first approach, and again, the second approach. So in moments like these, really all you can do is try and laugh it off. And I also decided that I was going to put that 3-wood off the deck away for quite a while. And while it would be really easy to just give up on this hole or feel like the entire round has gotten away from me, I'm trying to stay a little bit focused here, and I realize that if I can put a good shot on this, there is a chance that I can make a putt and somehow, miraculously, save a par. And I have a pretty good shot onto the approach here with a chance to look at this par, and it just misses the edge. But that is what we would call a fortunate bogey. But unfortunately, I don't know what happened, and I have no footage of the 4th hole. I did manage to get my first par of the day, so now we are at the 5th hole here, which is a short par 3. I push this one off a little bit short left, and then have a really aggressive chip here, and it just sails by. Really embarrassing when you're recording a round and you have to move the camera so that you can actually see your next putt. But I'm glad I did, because this is a really important moment in this round where I could have the chance to bogey again here and I would be +4 through 5, which would not be ideal. But thankfully I lock in my first good putt of the day. That's back-to-back pars that now starts to feel like I'm settling my swing down a little bit. And that's really what you need to do if you are starting to fight your swing a little. You just need to find one moment where you can latch onto and call that your turning point. I follow up that good putt with a nice drive right in the middle of the fairway. I have an approach that ends up being a little bit short of the green here, and I have to really rely on this short game. So what I didn't want to do is sail it well past the hole like my last chip. I have much better touch on this one, drain another par, and now there's some momentum building here. So 3 pars in a row, and the key to remember here is that this is all because I did not give up on myself just after a few bad shots. And then the swing starts to loosen up a little bit here. I sail this just a bit past on the par 3. I'm starting to get this short game rolling in. Nice little chip, tap in par. So now I'm +3 through 7 after being +3 through 3, which is great. And what could go wrong? I wish I could blame the picking up wind, but that was just another flat-out top, and as frustrating as it is to not be able to hit my woods on this given round, fortunately, I am hitting these absolutely terrible shots on par 5s. Because as long as you're keeping the ball in play, even having multiple bad shots on a single hole is not going to be incredibly punishing if it's a par 5. As long as each shot is moving forward in the direction you need it to, you can start to save somewhat of a score. This isn't going to end incredibly well for me though, as even my pitch on and trying to get it close enough to save a bogey isn't good. So it's a long putt to try and save bogey. I leave that quite short, able to drop that double bogey, and now I'm up to +5 through 8. But the mental game is back on point as I approach this par 3, and I know that I don't have a fairway wood in my hand, so I can put a more confident swing on it. I end up at the back of the green, and my whole goal here is just to 2-putt, take the par, and move on to the back 9 to try and get rid of some of those vibes that my 3-wood and my 5-wood were putting into my brain. So I'm able to drop those in, and that is not a terrible score considering you saw the number of terrible shots that end up happening. So the 10th hole is a par 5. I'm able to pull the driver back out, and it's one of the clubs that was going pretty consistently for me for most of the day. The shot tracer was a little bit off for me here as I actually end up in the left rough, and you'll notice that this time I'm changing up my game plan and I'm just pulling out an iron. I'm making zero attempt to go for this green in 2 because I just want to lay up to a comfortable position that I can put a wedge onto the green. This is one of the really important things you need to do when you're having a bit of a struggle on the golf course. Don't keep committing to the same shot that's bringing you stress. So I put a wedge on a little bit past the hole. You can notice that I'm reading this putt from the downhill perspective. Anytime you have a putt that's moving downhill, I really encourage you to go to the low side of that hole because you'll get a much better read on what the break is doing. So I see something from the lower side of the hole that's a little bit different than I see when I'm standing behind the ball and looking at the downhill pace. So my goal here is to try and maybe get my first birdie of the day. I have a decent look at it. I take some time to line that thing up, put a little stroke on, and it just misses off to the side. But that's a very easy tap-in par, so it's a good way to start the back 9, and I'm really glad that I made that adjustment out of the rough. It felt really good to just play a par 5 in as simple way as possible, try to get on in 3 and 2-putt. The next hole is a par 4, another pretty decent swing with the driver here, which just leaves a pretty straightforward iron shot into the green. And fortunately, there are quite a few large greens at the Cambridge golf course, and I'm not really hovering around the hole in a lot of these shots, so I'm starting to get the pace of my lag putt. I put that one just inside my buddy's ball that was there, an easy tap in for another par, so that's +5 through 11, and this is how I'm just managing to keep this round afloat. One thing you'll notice is that even though I've had some bad shots, I've had some not great putts, the one main thing I've done is I've kept this ball in play. I have yet to lose a ball, and that's a great way to ensure that you aren't adding unnecessary strokes to your round. It's going to be much better off for you if you're hitting bad shots that stay in play than if you're trying to get too aggressive and smash shots as far as possible and they start going out of bounds. And speaking of going too far, you can see that my chip went well past the hole, so it's a tricky attempt to save a par here that comes just short. There's the first bogey that I've had in a little while, so I am now +6 through 12. So my goal is to follow it up with a par to get back on track, and this is a par 3 that's about 180 yards, and I just left it a little bit short left on this side, which makes for a bit of a tricky pitch on because I have to go over this edge of the rough and the fringe, and it just doesn't quite release up towards the hole like I was anticipating. So again, really lengthy attempt to try and save a par here. Leave that just a bit long. Really brave of me to do this kind of lazy tap in, but I didn't want to step on my buddy's putting line that was on the other side. Fortunately, that still dropped in, and that was a back-to-back bogey situation. The next hole is a par 4, which my tracer is off again here, because this is a hole that for whatever reason, I've played this course about 3 times. I've been in this spot all 3 times. It's just off to the left, which is the worst position you can be for this hole. It requires you to just basically punch out because getting to the green is impossible. And I send my approach to the green a little bit off to the right. It was a pretty decent distance that would have given me a good chance to save the par, but I have to chip it onto the green here. And I like tapping in my putts to make sure that my handicap is pure because sometimes I can miss shots like this, but I'll never say no to a friend's gimme. So that's a nice little bogey, and we're moving on to the 15th hole, which is a par 3. This is an absolutely massive green that I managed to miss short. There was a real problem with my par 3 approaches in this round as I seem to have needed to club up 1 almost every time. Another not great chip, which leaves another way too long attempt at a par putt. It's right at the cup, but just a bit short, so there's another bogey. And although I wasn't counting my exact score at this point in the round, I knew that I was going to need at least one birdie to have a shot at breaking 80 because I only had a few holes to go. And this is a par 5 that I have a pretty decent drive up that gives me a chance to go for the green in 2. And I do try my 5-wood again this time, and it worked out a lot better. I didn't top it. It was a nice little kind of sling around the side. But I went a little bit over the green and then left that chip way too short. So I do have a good look at birdie, but I don't know what happened with the break there. It just didn't work out for me. Would have been really nice to chip it a bit closer and have a tap-in birdie, but I'm not going to complain because having a round like I've been having, it's just nice to get off that little bogey train that was starting to leave the station. So I have a good drive on the 17th hole and a little pitch onto the green here. And my only goal of getting on this green was that I wanted to be behind the hole because I didn't want to take a chance of being short again and possibly in that bunker. And I just burned the edge here as that birdie putt doesn't quite fall for me. Again, it's just not one of those rounds where birdies are there, so thankfully I'm able to put together enough pars that I'm keeping this score afloat. I'm not going to be able to break 80, but I do have a decent drive here where I'm off to the left on the 18th hole. A good approach on. This time I'm a little bit shorter of the hole, but I am on the green. You can just see it bounce up there and it moved a little bit left, which I didn't quite understand. I thought it was going to kick forward more. But there is back-to-back birdie attempts to finish my round, which is a little bit of a positive vibe for me. I leave that one just off. It's a little tap-in par, and there we have it. So all things being told, not a great round, but when you look at the final score, +9, I still shot 81. So if you were just looking to break 90 in your rounds, these are the key things you need to keep in mind. Keep that ball in play, and do not try to hit shots that just aren't there for you that day. Sometimes you have it, and sometimes you don't.